Y'all, today we need to talk about an idea that Wizard101 should seriously consider adding into the game. Now, this is based on a community post. It's one of those things that I just think deserves more people talking about it, more attention. But this is the post in question. It's from Atmoplex. If y'all know about the Wiz Twitter scene, y'all might know them. But what is the idea in this post? It's the idea that Wiz should add challenge mode realms. Now let's look at how realms work now and talk about what this post is proposing, right? Because right now realms, they're really not important in terms of like where you are. It literally just determines how many people you'll see, right? If you're in a full realm versus a perfect realm versus a crowded realm, all that determines is how many other people you'll see when you're questing or farming or whatever. But this post wants to reimagine the realm system and add realms that change based on difficulty. So y'all see that little symbol in this post, right? That's actually the symbol that Wiz is going to be adding in the future. We've already seen teasers of this from way earlier in the year, but basically certain things that are allowed in advanced combat versus standard combat, they're going to be basically delineated by this symbol. Meaning, if you see the symbol, you know that it's related to advanced combat or challenge mode. And they're saying that certain realms should follow all the rules that advanced combat already follows. Now, I really like the concept of the idea, but I wanted to put my own spin on it based on my experiences in this game and my experiences with challenge mode. Now, let's talk about the way challenge mode works in general, right? These are the rules that are applied to red sigils in regular PvE, PvP, and raids, right? If you do any of those activities, you're restricted by the rules of challenge mode. What does that basically mean? I would argue that means three big things. Anything that's not allowed in PvP is not allowed in challenge mode. That's just the way that it works right now. And that restriction, it affects a lot of things, not just the minion that I showed earlier, but things like enchants, and the big one, even things like traditional AoEs, right? AoEs that do the same amount of damage to everyone out on the field. These are no PvP. You have to divide the damage the more targets you have if you want to use any AoEs in advanced combat. Now, Wizard101 has basically used these restrictions to basically design raids and PvP, but I would argue the most recent example of how this has affected the game is the challenge mode that they've added to Aqua. Right, this was a summer update. If you do want to, like, you know, have a challenge, as you can call it, you can basically enter a red sigil instead of a blue sigil, and you'll be restricted in this dungeon based on everything that's not allowed in PvP, right? So no traditional AoEs, no burst heals, no enchants. I would argue those are the big restrictions. And for completing every single challenge mode, you can actually get a badge that unlocks really, really cool cosmetics. This is a pretty cool rollout. My opinion of this, however, is that it feels way too restrictive, and it doesn't really feel like a challenge. It feels like it's more tedious. I've said this a lot in the past, but imagine like every heal that you have to do is an overtime, right? Every hit that you have to do can't get the benefit of an enchant. Every AoE has to be a little bit worse than it normally is. It feels like the challenge is that the wizard is nerfed rather than the enemies are better, and I think that's a very, very big deal. I think when people talk about the idea of wanting realms with extra difficulty, the game playing a little bit more difficult, more challenges being available, very, very often in their mind, they're not thinking about the wizard's abilities being worse. They're thinking about bosses that meet the needs of the growing stats, the growing power level of the wizard. I think this discussion of actual necessary difficulty being added, like something that the player can choose, I really think it's gonna like be really important when they get rid of this damage cap. We're gonna see people running around with 300 damage, right? This little 238 soft cap, I talked about this in a previous video, but this is also on its way out. So what do I think they should do? Yes, I think they should add difficult realms, but I think the difficulty should be based on the mobs being higher health. I think the difficulty, maybe if you want to nerf the wizard, should be based on maybe like the stats of the mob being so powerful that your stats aren't as good. I would especially love to see if you were to, like, you know, add this concept, right? You pull up your realm list, maybe Centaur is a challenge realm. I would love to see if like the final boss of a street, like maybe Rattlebones, or maybe even the Sprite Queen at the end of the Unicorn Way Street, right? Imagine if like Rattlebones had like a little bit more health, a little bit more outgoing damage. Maybe he has like a weird interrupt cheat that just interrupts the battle and adds an extra turn for him, and he does like, I don't know, a really, really small skeletal pirate, right? You you could see a thing where, you know, maybe you need other people to play with in order to even do a lower level boss. Maybe by doing this, you unlock different badges that give you even more rewards. Maybe they give you more drops. Maybe they give you early ways to farm for Spelleman. I think that type of approach would be a lot better than just saying, oh, this realm has advanced combat turned on. You can't use AoEs. You can't heal properly. Your wizard basically can't do anything right. I think that would be a better approach. And also think about it, right? A lot of people, they want replayability. I really, really doubt this even has to be a first-time playthrough type of thing. Maybe there's a feature that could unlock when you actually play through the game for the first time, and then you get like a pop-up that says challenge mode realms enabled. Now you can choose to go to a realm on your second or third playthrough where there's more challenges and more drops available. I think that would pop off. It would add so much to the linearity of this game. And if y'all didn't know, challenge mode as is right now already scales down your level. So they wouldn't even have to do anything extra so that high levels can experience that, right? Let's say that you're a high level, you want to go back to an older area and still experience a challenging boss. I think all they would have to do is scale your level down, but do nothing else. Like, don't restrict us in our ability to do stuff. Just make the bosses better. I think this idea of people, you know, wanting more difficulty, but not wanting challenge mode really has been apparent recently, especially with the Darkmoor update that's come out. For a lot of people, the last time they actually remember struggling with a boss, but it wasn't like, you know, so stupid that they didn't want to try again. I think for a lot of people, it was this Darkmoor dungeon right here, right? This was a very, very hard thing that right at level 100 when it dropped, you really did need a team to do it. But was it challenging because you couldn't use AoEs, burst heals, or enchants? No, it was challenging because the bosses came with some cool cheats. They came with really, really good drops. It was an extremely rewarding experience that very, very often did require a team. I think a boss fight requiring a team needs to require a team for the right reasons. That's something that I just think Wiz has missed out on. And if they ever want to take feedback on increasing difficulty with realms, I hope they go the route of bosses being stronger, not the wizard being weaker. But I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on the idea of being able to choose more difficult realms. I've seen other games do it, especially on like second or third playthroughs. And also, I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on challenge mode. If you didn't really have any experience with it, hopefully I explained it well. And what do you guys think about it based on my explanation? But also, if you've done challenge mode, what do you guys think they could do to make it better? Do y'all agree that it just feels like the wizard is weaker and therefore it's not really challenging? Or do you guys think challenge mode is fine the way that it is, but I don't know, maybe they could make something different about it in a different direction? I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts on this. I just saw this idea on my feed and I'm like, I gotta make a video about this. It's like kind of exciting. If y'all do want to see some crazy challenge mode content, if you want to call it that, I have been doing a self-imposed die equals delete series live every day on this channel, so make sure y'all check that out if y'all want to see what I'm talking about when I'm talking about challenging. I look forward to reading all of y'all's thoughts though. Drop a like if you enjoyed, leave a sub if you're new, and as always, if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong. Stay awesome, y'all. See y'all soon, and yeah.